All right, hello again. I am double stacking with the last video I did, so kind of coming down a little bit from the emotions. If you haven't seen my most recent video before this one, you should, especially if you are aware of Paul Harrell, his legacy, his impact, and if you want to hear another personal story as to his impact, I highly recommend you check out that last video. That being said, I recently saw a movie. This movie is called Trap, T-R-A-P. It's M. Night Shyamalan directed, and it's starring Josh Hartnett. And I wanted to talk about it because I was analyzing this film in a very different way than I normally do. I think it's a really good case study for gray man theory. It's a really good dive into veteran mentality, especially those of combat vets. And it also shows a level of when we are in that whole red phase that you hear gun tubers and other tactical people talk about, of like when you need to be proactive to get yourself out of a bad situation. I think this movie does a really good job of showing those things. And I'll freely admit it's not for necessarily good reasons. Okay, that needs to be up to us as responsible individuals who are morally, trying to do the right thing. We need to make that distinction. But that's not to say that the decisions he made or the reasoning of doing certain things is that we can't learn an example from that. So I'm going to quickly go over the synopsis of the film. I'm going to try not to spoil anything, especially because anything about M. Night Shyamalan, the whole twist shit. I actually think he did a really good job with this twist for once. It was a subtle one, but it made a difference to the movie and the tone. I am going to give a spoiler for the end of the film, and that's going to be a little bit later on, and I'll try to remember to say it. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't like spoilers, maybe just go ahead and skip that last part. But there is a flaw with the film that leads to a flaw in the gray man and all that shit. So I do need to call it out. And if you don't care, then you don't care. But either way, I still recommend seeing this movie. So the quick synopsis. Josh Hartnett's character is a serial killer, and he is also a family man. He has a daughter, a son, and he has a wife. So he decides that he's going to take his daughter to a Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande style concert with this artist. I can't even remember what her name is. It's actually M. Night Shyamalan's daughter in real life, and she wrote and composed some of those stuff. Sorry, as a musician and like a film guy, like that's really cool. So the dad goes and takes her to this concert, and it's like a giant, like fucking arena level stage. It's not like some small shit. It's huge. I don't know where it took place, what city or anything like that, but it's a massive venue. So he goes in there and he starts rapidly realizing, hey, there's like a heavy fucking police presence, like abnormally so. And through a chance encounter with someone, he starts. He observes that, hey, they're actually here to catch this murderer. I think they call him the Butcher. I know, not a boys reference. Like they call him the Butcher because he likes to chop up these fucking people. Obviously, it's Josh Hartnett. He's the Butcher. So he starts being like, fuck, what do I do? So several times he tries to, we'll say, test boundaries of escaping. And again, not spoiling at this point yet in this deep dive, he does manage to escape, but I'm not going to tell you how or what happens after. But we can stop right there. More of the film happens, and we'll kind of address it from there. But let's start with the whole premise, right? So obviously, we should not be serial killers who fucking chop up people. We are morally the good guys, right? The gray men, the direct action people. We are people who are trying to do what's right for our community and for our safety and our family safety. So, what I was thinking about when I was watching this film, all right, I am not a combat veteran. I'm going to very much stress that. I was in the U.S. Navy for 2.5 years. Excuse me. I was a hospital corpsman. I have some extremely basic combat training. I'm not even FMF qualified. I got injured and forced out of the Navy before I'd gone to my sea school for FMF. So very, 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 very bare bones. More medically trained than anything. That being said, I have try to expand my combat effectiveness in other ways through individual training, through some classes, and through networking with all the veterans that I interact with because I run a nonprofit for veterans. So I would say, for on a Metal Gear staffing level of grading system, I'm probably like a C. My medical skills probably like a B, but my overall skill, I'd say, brings me down to about a C. But that doesn't mean we can't take away some certain things, right? So the first thing that struck me about this movie is how rapidly Josh realizes that this is definitely not normal. There's way more police presence. The police are armed to the fucking teeth. They got submachine guns. They have rifles. They are overt. They are not trying to be subtle whatsoever. On top of that, there is what I'm going to call discreet security. So one of the things that happens in the film is that when he finds out, hey, they're coming to get this serial killer, he discovers that staff members are assigned to certain sections, and each section has a code word. So anytime they want to get back to the staff access areas, they need to say this code word. There's another security feature they have as well that kind of is a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm not going to talk about it yet. So now he's thinking like, shit, I have to make sure I'm in the right area to utilize this code. Okay? That's not necessarily a situation that may happen in real life, but it shows you now if you're limited to a specific area, you need to maximize the effectiveness. You need to know where all your locations are. You need to know where all the exits are. You need to know all the secret pathways. You need to know all the people who are going in and out. You need to be observant. And that's the key thing that I'm going to start saying with this, is that this movie takes a veteran's perspective of observance to the most accurate I've ever seen. I can only imagine what a combat veteran's level of awareness and observance is, but I can tell you every time I go into a place, how Josh Hartnett's character is when he realizes he's being hunted is basically my norm. Some would consider it a level of paranoia. I don't. I've had guns pointed at me before. I've been stabbed before. I've been mugged before. I've had shit happen to me before. Okay? This is all before I was in the military. So my paranoia is more akin to, I grew up in some not so good areas in Chicago, and I'm still alive to tell about it because I did something right. And I'm going to continue doing those things right as long as I live in an area like Chicago. So, observance. Fucking critical, man. You guys do not understand how much of a situation you can prevent yourself being in just by seeing it ahead of time. If you see one thing that's a little bit suspect, if you see someone who's just got their hand in their pocket for a little bit too long and you're at a bank, you're just like, you know what? I don't think I need to pull out money at this bank. Maybe I can go to another one, If you see someone who's just, always looking around a little bit at the restaurant and kind of just keeping an eye on a whole bunch of things, maybe take that lunch to go. Just, if it's paranoia, it's paranoia. But do you want to take the chance? Especially if you got your family with you, So, observance. Huge, huge thing that the movie shows very accurately. The second thing is adaptability. So I'm going to, quote unquote, spoil some of the things that you might have seen in the trailer, you might not have seen in the trailer. What he ends up doing is he uses this nice guy persona, this non-threatening personality to start gaining more intel. And I think that's something Greymen, Direct Action men definitely need to incorporate, right? You don't want to look threatening or intimidating all the time. You want to have the time where you are doing fucking work and the time that you are camoed in with your fucking community. They need to be hard distinctions. You can blend the two a little bit, but think about it this way, right? If we're talking about longevity and we're trying to do all these missions, sorry, my pup's sitting over here now, so I got to pet him. You want to make it look like you're not a threat. You want to make it look like you can just go and do an operation and disappear into the civilian world. So he makes himself look non-threatening. He gains more intel. One of the first things that he does is he pickpockets a ID card. He uses this ID card. Then that gets him in, and because for some unknown reason, one small strike against the film, they're giving a presentation as to what to look out for at the theater while the operation's happening. That's not what would happen. You know what I mean? That is something that would probably get handled. Sorry, someone's trying to call me right now. That would be something that gets handled well before an operation takes place, and definitely not at the operation space. Okay. But while all of them are distracted, he just happens to find a radio on a vest. He takes it off the carrier, discreetly holds it, and now he's got direct live intel. He knows about certain things, and it helps him avoid some traps and some issues later on. Besides that, he also, we're diving into spoiler territory now. So if you don't want spoilers, you're going to have to probably pause this and find where it doesn't, because I'm not doing timestamps. When I get a couple hundred subscribers, then I'll start doing timestamps. At one point, he just pieces together that this guy who's walking around and doing all these things is with the band, okay? The artist in this case. And he goes up and he starts talking, and he had found out previously from his daughter, who was watching this, that I guess every show, some girl gets called onto stage to sing and perform with the artist. So he talks with this person who he recognizes as part of the band, and it turns out to be her uncle, the artist's uncle. So he gets that information. He's just like, well, I just want to say that your niece does a wonderful job. She's a huge inspiration, especially because my daughter, she's a survivor of cancer. She's starting to get her life back in order, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. He uses a lie to further his goals. Again, we got to talk about the morality thing, right? If we're in a direct action role, or if we're in a gray man role, and we're trying to either prevent a situation, escape from a situation, or mitigate a situation, you got to look into yourself and be like, is that a morally questionable thing I'm willing to do? And if you're not a serial killer and you just happen to be in a very bad situation, you're trying to get out of that situation, maybe a little white lie isn't too bad. But in this case, he lies and says his daughter is a survivor of cancer. And later on in the show, the uncle asks if the daughter will be this special girl who's going to go up on stage. The father obviously is ecstatic about this because this is a chance to escape. If he can get into the back, the back access ways, then maybe it'll be less guarded. Maybe he can get out. So all up to this point of this film, there is a level of background tension that, again, I think most veterans, and I have to assume all combat veterans feel all the fucking time. You can't turn it off, right? I will say mine comes and goes. There are times where I just feel more on edge than usual, and I listen to my body because I don't want to say I have great instincts because, like I said, I've had bad things happen to me before, but through experience, I have heightened what is likely to happen and what is unlikely to happen, and I trust my body. If I start feeling anxious for a reason, something is bad in the air. I don't know what it is. I don't want to find out what the fuck it is. So, if you guys don't take anything away from the film itself, at least watch the first 25-30 minutes and just see his observations, his observance capabilities, and how to adapt as a situation develops, because it's so fluid for him to go from extremely anxious to masquerading confidence to, looking like a pathetic, weak guy to being your best friend, all to further his goal to get him towards that exit. So the show ends, and he pulls the artist aside because he overhears, remember he's getting live intel with the radio, he overhears his profile. If y'all watched Criminal Minds back in the day, the unsubs profile is being explained to the pop star artist. And he's hearing this entire conversation. So now he knows how to change his behavior so he's less likely to stand out to the cops. That's, I don't want to say slightly unrealistic or realistic or not. Sometimes we're not aware of our own behavior until someone calls it out. So that's why you need to get better at blending in with your environment. I just came from Southern Illinois. All right. I was over doing a mini vacation, and I am not talking like a Chicagoan down there. I'm throwing out y'alls. I'm drawing out a little bit because that's the environment that I'm in. I already know I stand out like a sore thumb. This is literally what I wore. I wore a fucking button-up hunting shirt and some jeans. And I had a fucking ball cap. I'm not trying to blend in to the sense where people believe I'm there. I'm just trying to not get a second glance from someone, And maybe that's paranoia. Maybe it isn't. I don't care. It's a skill that I want to practice and refine because that's it at the end of the day. If things do kick off in the real world, our ability to blend in with the civilian world after we do a direct action role, simply not getting a second glance really increases your odds of doing another mission. So, that being said, he finds out a bit more about his own capabilities and is like, I'm going to flip the script. Literally. He pulls the artist aside under the guise of talking about his daughter's cancer. And then this is where we're kind of starting to get a little unrealistic here. He basically confides to her that, yeah, I'm the butcher. I'm the guy you're looking for. And if you don't do what I'm fucking telling you to do right here, right now, he holds up a phone, and I guess he's got this system in place that he could suffocate someone. So early on in the film, you see him watching one of his captives trying to escape. And he's explaining that, hey, I could literally press a button and he'd fucking die. And I actually forgot something that now I need to tie back really quick. So he was a firefighter, okay? And at first, I didn't believe that. I thought he was just saying it to kind of further his goals. But at one point, a girl passes out and he brings her to the first aid station and just easily like knows where everything is and he's doing stuff. And it clicked in my head because I'm a medical professional. I'm like, oh, okay, he actually is a firefighter. The reason why I bring this up is because he's talking to the pop star artist how oxygen works and how carbon monoxide works, because I guess how he kills his victims is that he just uses carbon monoxide poisoning and then he hacks them up while they're like dead. Hopefully while they're dead. I don't know. They don't really explain too much about his work, so to speak. So the pop star artist, instead of just screaming for her fucking life that the murderer's here and kind of ending the film like reality would happen, because I feel self-preservation is there, right? Hey, I'm sorry, guy, you just showed me on a phone, but if I scream right now, I catch you, and now we don't have any other further murders. But whatever, I guess a pop star artist has better self-control than your average human being. She decides to follow along and listen to Josh Hartnett's character. In this case, what he says is, you're going to take us to our car in your limo. And that's how he gets the back access out. And then while he's in the limo, the pop star artist pulls an audible and is like, I want to go to your house. And Josh Hartnett's like, the fuck? But Josh Hartnett's daughter is with them. And now she's ecstatic. And then she calls her mom to let her know that the pop star artist is going to come to the house. So now Josh Hartnett's fucking sitting there stewing like, the fuck do you have planned? So they end up getting to the house, and through some trickery, whether convoluted or not, you guys be the judge of, the pop star artist gets a hold of Josh Hartnett's cell phone, which showed how to kill the captive, and then locks herself in the bathroom, and then Josh Hartnett is like losing his shit. He's literally trying to kick down the fucking door. His family's screaming like, what the fuck are you doing? That's so-and-so pop star artist. Like, what the fuck's your problem? The pop star artist goes on her social media, some Instagram equivalent, and is like, yo, this person is being held captive. I need you all to listen to what he's saying and find the clues. And through maybe 5 minutes, they somehow piece together where this kid's being captive, and they actually bust him out. This leads the police to come to Josh Hartnett's house, and they're about to murk the shit out of him. And in something that I saw was coming, he, of course, had planned ahead for all this stuff, and he had a hidden escape. Now I'm going to spoil the one part where I'm like, the movie should have fucking just ended. Somehow, not only did he escape from his own house, which is slightly believable, always having an exit plan. Have that be our takeaway. He dug a tunnel to his neighbor's yard. He hid it very well, and he made it so, like, you ain't gonna fucking find me. I thought that was borderline realistic. I think you could maybe do that. But the fact that police aren't covering all fucking houses, all blocks. I've actually, unfortunately, been in a raid before, and I can tell you, you are not, within a 3-block radius, you are not being seen. Someone's going to call you in. Someone's going to fucking see that. So that's one strike of unrealism. Then this next part is completely unrealistic. He somehow killed a SWAT member, donned his gear, and then took over driving the limousine that had the pop star artist. He drives her to one of his safe houses, and she uncuffs herself enough to roll down her window and get all this attention. Now Josh Hartnett's literally fucking mobbed by people. She gets out of the car, and somehow the crowd didn't piece together that she was out of the car yet. And then all the police show up, and somehow Josh Hartnett snuck out of the car without anyone knowing. That's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now. If he had some t-shirts in the front and he changed clothes, but somehow didn't get seen exiting his car while it's being mobbed. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that's pretty fucking unrealistic, right? The second a car door opens, like, everyone is going to know that. So from that point onward, the movie is pretty unrealistic, and I wouldn't say to take away anything from it. But everything leading up to it, I think, is critical for gray men, direct action men, anyone who plans on doing clandestine-style operations and wants to get into the mindset. Now, if you remember, I was talked about how this is a good insight to how veterans operate. So I want to take a minute, and I want to kind of divert away from all the direct action shit, excuse me, and talk about something that not a lot of people may have experience with. If you are the loved one of a veteran, and you're trying to be extremely supportive, and you're trying to help them reintegrate to society, even if they've been out for 20, 30 years, you know, the transition process is different for everybody. A level of empathy is understandable in that situation. But you're not ever going to really know what it's like to have that level of paranoia, that level of pressure, because someone can die if you don't say the right order, if you don't confirm it the right way. You know, there's such a level of operation that needs to happen in order for the military to run effectively, right? I would say watch this film even if you don't directly interact with veterans, because it's going to give you a good idea of how we perceive the world all the time. Well, granted, we already acknowledge, for very different reasons, okay? We're not serial killers who are being caught in a trap. We are just always observant of the people around us, and we have been educated that at a moment's notice, we flick that switch that says, be a civil human being, to fucking survive. Okay? And a combat veteran, that light switch, that trigger is much, much quicker. Much quicker. So, by watching that film, you can learn little subtle ways to kind of mitigate those anxieties for veterans. And all that stuff aside, if you are someone who struggles with anxiety or paranoia, I think you should have your friends watch this movie as well, because I think it does a really good job showing what our brains default to when we're in stressful situations. And sometimes it's overt. You know, you see a SWAT group, fucking M4s, all pointed, you know, at a doorway, make sure you don't leave. And sometimes it's just, you know, there's a little extra people at a fucking grocery store, and you just aren't good around people. You know, it doesn't matter. I think the film does a really good job. I think M. Night Shyamalan directed the movie very well. And I think Josh Hartnett did a very good job, for the most part, about portraying a real level of anxiety. Again, there were some parts that I thought were pretty unrealistic. But mostly those occur at the end of the film. The only other thing I'll say on this is that, in reference to what I said, the three key takeaways we could take from the film is observance, adaptability, and having an escape plan. In a sheer Hollywood level of the second and third, he gets caught, gets handcuffed, gets thrown into the back of a truck, and he was able to unlock his handcuffs by breaking off a bike spoke, because as he was leaving, he was just like, hey guys, can I just pick this bike up? I don't know why the fucking cops let him touch anything. I also don't know how they didn't notice a piece of metal being broken off of a fucking bicycle. But, you know, is what it is. I think the other small takeaway we can give is another spoiler for the film. The whole reason why he got caught was because somehow he left a torn receipt of the tickets he bought to that show for his daughter. Well, he didn't leave it. His wife did. His wife was starting to suspect that he was the killer, and she actually went on her own level of observance, adaptability, and having an escape plan. And she implemented it very well. And since this is the twist of the film, I kind of don't want to say how she did all that and what she did, but that to me shows that you don't have to be a military-minded individual. You can just have a heightened level of observance, and the adaptability and having an escape plan will naturally follow. Because at the end of the day, when we're going to be gray men, when we're going to be direct action guys, when we're going to do all this, revolutionary stuff, we got to find that courage first off. And I'm not going to lie, man, I understand it's fearful. It's going to be very terrifying to fight an oppressive, tyrannical government or a foreign invader. I get that. But as soon as you start down the path, the rest of the components develop. That's why everyone, all these gun tubers, all these class educators, all these SEALs, all these Green Berets are telling you, prep now. Get desensitized to the fear so you can fucking do it when it comes down. They all went through the same training. I went through part of that training. The U.S. military does that. So why not start yourself off on a better foot now? Know how to do these things, or at least know what you're stepping into before someone's knocking on your door with an M4. A good way to start is to check out that movie. Trap, M. Night Shyamalan, Josh Hartnett. I don't think it's in theaters anymore. You're probably going to have to Hulu it, Netflix it, buy it, but I highly recommend that you do. Y'all take care.